Satellite coming down in 3, 2, 1.
Go, go, go!
The Battle of the Bulge. One of Battlefield 1942's upper mid-tier classics, it is a conquest assault-style map intended to be tank-heavy and without aircraft. The flags were a reasonable distance away from each other, but like all 1942 map layouts, terrain detail was frequently barren, flat, and exposed. A river through the middle divided the two flags on the west from the three in the east. Just two small bridges provided primary access across for vehicles and typically infantry as well, as swimming was slow and made you extremely vulnerable. The town of St. Vith provided most of the cover on the map and was the primary infantry flag. The US main, containing their two medium tank spawns and one priest self-propelled artillery, was a capturable objective. Losing this flag to the Germans typically ended the game due to the loss of these assets. Remastered faithfully to its original design, but now in the beauty of the modern Frostbite engine, the Battle of the Bulge in 2042's Portal mode leaves much to be desired. On one hand, its wintry detail and old-school map assets give off vibes of Battlefield 5 maps and make it a truly picturesque environment. On the other hand, the faithful lack of map detail, terrain deviation, and vast expanses without cover definitely make it look and feel dated. Of the 6 Portal maps designed for 2042, 4 of them were from the modern era. The Battle of the Bulge hails from the earliest Battlefield title with the most primitive gameplay elements, and from the World War II era. As such, outside of Portal and outside of the 1942 Portal modes, the map suffers significantly. It just doesn't play well with the main 2042 gameplay elements. But what if it could? This is my proposed remaster for this 1942 era antique and make it a modern, medium-sized, and intense map capable of being integrated into the main Conquest playlists. Introducing Battle of the Bulge 2023. Starting from the beginning, let's examine the original map design and look at the existing flag layout. The flag layout of the Battle of the Bulge is not inherently terrible. However, it does not allow for too much deviation without a massive undertaking. The terrain and structures which surround each flag are pretty set, with most of the map assets placed around them. However, there is some slight wiggle room. In addition, there is one huge section of the map currently sitting within the map border, and oddly, without any resources or bridge in the area. This is my proposed flag rework. This version of Battle of the Bulge borrows heavily from the design of the reworked 2042 Valparaiso, and would now be a 7-flag map divided by the river. There are 2 big changes here. First, a brand new flag will be added in this southern area next to the existing road. This will be the new lumber camp flag. Why a lumber camp? Because the existing lumber camp assets located further west can be copied and slightly expanded. It will include new defensive assets imported from Breakaway, since both maps have snow-covered models. This will be a recurring theme. The addition of this new flag will make it the 3rd flag on the south side of the river. The 2nd flag alteration, and the most major redesign of the entire map, is the splitting of the existing D flag into 2 new flags, D1 and D2. The original flag sat in front of the church in the town of St. Vith. However, a deep analysis of this map came to the conclusion that 1. The flag distance between B and D and E were still exceptional. 2. No matter how much terrain deviation or new buildings and structures you add, the terrain distance remains. And 3. Adding significant structures just to provide new cover is too much work for no great gain. The new flags of D1 and D2 will increase the total flag count on the map to 7, and more importantly close the distances between the northern flags. Additionally, it will also focus the center of the map as the main battle site in the town itself between the flags. To achieve this, the western D1 flag will need to be placed on the western edge of the town. A few more of the typical old-style buildings and walls can be added to this area to extend the size of the town westward. This both provides additional room for the flag and additional cover for players traveling between B and D1. On the eastern side of the town, the new D2 flag will be positioned in the currently empty snowfield between the two roads, the southern which leads directly to the E1 flag. The town needs to be slightly expanded eastward toward this zone. Here at this field, another 2 large windmills will be placed, copies of the one at the A1 flag, though they will not be on a hill. Additional 2042 defensive fortifications mixed with old school style homes and walls will blend to make this point unique. Why choose a windmill here? Because although nowhere near the elevation of the 1942 version, the E flag does sit atop some higher terrain. The windmills will provide additional visual obstruction from this hill, blocking any tanks, and specifically Tors from firing directly into the city. The rest of the flags will remain in their same locations. However, the remainder of which will all receive some additional 2042 assets in the form of World War II style homes and 2042 fortifications. In particular, the B flag will now have 2 of the large combustible oil containers and some additional assets from Breakaway to flesh it out, while the C1 flag will now include a piece-for-piece copy of the major A2 flag structure from the same map, which will provide some much-needed definition to the area. Meanwhile, the E flag will now include some additional hangars and containers, gaining much-needed cover in its zone to the west. These changes to the flag layout and their immediate surrounding form the basis of the reworked map design. Having 7 flags is cool, but there are still only 2 bridges with which to cross the river. This needs to be corrected. 4 additional bridges will be added along the river in order to assist players moving around the map, and drastically reduce the meat grinder effect currently in existence. The locations of these new bridges correspond to the new flags added to the map, and all that would be needed is to add a modern bridge type as found on Kaleidoscope, or just reuse the basic old-timey bridge already existing on the map. Moving on to the map terrain. As it stands, it is a largely flat map. Any significant alterations to this design would be time-consuming. To avoid this, I propose adding additional old-style houses and walls sporadically along the riverbank. Next, I would significantly increase the volume of pine trees in these sections of the map, along with some snowplows, containers, and destroyed World War II vehicle assets. These should greatly increase the cover in these areas. Then there is the issue of the main bases. The original map was Conquest Assault and featured the US Main as the supply depot at E1. This will be changed, and the map will now be Standard Conquest. Taking cues of great map design and with the river in mind, each team will have 2 uncapturable main bases, 1 on each side of the river, and connected by a nearby bridge. Having a base on each side does several positive things. First, it almost eliminates the possibility of a main base full cap on the map. While rare, each team would have the escape option by deploying on the flag of least resistance, pushing out through the flatter terrain along the map boundary, and even reinforce each other using the closest bridge. It also significantly improves map flow by never concentrating all players on one side of the river. Lastly, it allows vehicles to have an expanded zone of play and not dominate one side. Finally, speaking of the vehicles, unlike every other 2042 Conquest map, I would significantly restrict the amount of vehicles. How much so? I would make it the only Conquest map in the entire game without any air assets. No air transports, no attack or scout helicopters, and no jets. This is done to protect the integrity of the layout, complement its medium size, and finally implement a limited vehicle design prioritizing infantry. To that end, the entire map pool of my Battle of the Bulge would consist of a pool of 2 tanks, 1 armored ground transport, and 4 light ground transports. Of these, the hovercraft in particular would be entertaining to see float down the river. The lower vehicle count would reduce the frustrations of many 2042 layouts, make it unique to the map pool, and focus the match on the ground. This is my remastered experience for Battlefield 2042. It adds significantly more cover, changes the game mode, slightly alters the terrain detail, adds more bridges and flanking options, prevents base camping and full captures, and should in theory provide an intense mixed infantry vehicle map without any aircraft whatsoever. I liken it to a strange mix of Amiens, Valparaiso, and a rural Seine crossing. It should provide excellent game flow, great infantry battles, and limited vehicular annoyance. This is the Battle of the Bulge 2023. As with everything, this is entirely a concept video. All the theory crafting in the world doesn't guarantee a great map design. However, with my experience with Battlefield over 20 plus years and knowledge of Battlefield map design, I feel that this redesign is a major improvement over the original. Do you think you would enjoy this map? What flaws do you foresee? Would you like to see this design added to 2042? Let me know what you think. This is by far the easier of the 2 1942 Portal maps to rework. This is part 2 of the series regarding the 1942 Portal maps of El Alamein and the Battle of the Bulge. Next time, we break El Alamein.